Hi there. Welcome to Mind Universe, a podcast that I started on the 3rd of February 2020. It was probably the beginning of COVID lockdowns, and I took that opportunity to sit down and share my thoughts and feelings and insights with all of you. However, with the years that have passed, I found myself allowing outside influences to affect me in a way that made me question myself. I remember at one time, it was the around the end of 2020, I had already produced probably 20 episodes, and I was getting bombarded with questions that ask, how do you choose the topics that you talk about? Do you research them, or do you just think them and speak about them? And it made me feel defensive, and that's on me, not on the person or persons who were asking. I found myself wanting to provide reasonable and logical explanations to the topics that I was talking about. I remember talking about friendships, the past and the future, and talking about things such as dealing with your own self in a world where you're not sure if you are on the right path or what even is the right path. Now, all of those things, I talked about them naturally. It came to me naturally. Now, through that period of time and after, I found myself filled, or rather, being filled with difficulties and challenges and doubts. And the longer they lingered, the more their grip grew stronger on me. And it made me, I'm not sure how to put this, but it made me give in to them. I started drifting, and slowly it pushed me away from the podcast. And to to actually speak about it, I felt like nobody would be listening to me, and nobody would be tuning in anymore. The age of podcast is past. That's how I felt, at least. Even though I, to this day, listen to them, and like I enjoy listening to them. But I'm not sure what happens in a person's journey that makes them not confident in what they're doing and being hit with self-doubt left and right to a point where it does not leave them room to balance themselves and actually get back on track doing what they want to do. Now, it isn't all negative and bad. No, a lot of things have happened. I have honed my skill. I've grown accustomed to my own self and the way I articulate my words, and life has been really good, honestly, in such a way that I do not recognize who I am now because I still kind of associate with who I was back then. For example, I've acquired so much knowledge in videography, audiography. I've acquired professional tools, be it in the cameras that I use, in the stands and tripods and monopods, and the devices that I have access to. I remember one day, years ago, it felt like a tremendous challenge to take my camera with me outside and have a small wireless microphone on my shirt and leaving the house and going recording somewhere in public. Like, that was a big deal. And the difference between that and what I used to do when it was only a podcast is the use of a camera. Because in the beginning, when I started Mind Universe, it was only audio. Not most, but a lot of my listeners didn't even know how I look. And obviously, it doesn't matter whether or not you know how I look. But it was only using a microphone, so I had the freedom to not need to focus on visuals and video editing, etc. I just hold the microphone, hit record, do my recording, and it's done. Now, I'm not saying that I dislike it now. I actually love that I have stepped into the field of videography, and let's call it video podcast, and while still retaining the nature of an audio podcast. However, it did come with its own challenges. To this day, talking to the camera feels artificial to me. Maybe I'm gonna get used to it one day. Sometimes I talk to myself and think that it does not make sense. You've been doing this for so long. Why are you still not comfortable talking to the camera? And fair enough. But it still does not feel as natural as talking to a person who is present. And I've watched videos, I've listened to people talk about this, and I get the gist that don't talk to the camera, talk to the person who will be watching this. And I get that, and I do that. I am right now talking to you. I have you in mind. I'm not speaking to a microphone. I'm not speaking to a camera. I'm not speaking to the editing software I will use before posting this. I'm talking to you. And it still is a challenge. Now, I've summarized one of the reasons this is challenging is the fact that there is not an actual person present as of the time of this recording. And preparing a script, reading off of it, does not feel natural to me. It does not come off as authentically as speaking while having something in mind. And that's the other challenge. Having having something in mind prior to hitting record is actually difficult, mostly because to pick something and go with it is not easy when you have everything to talk about. I could talk about the cognitive theoretical model of the universe. I could talk about sculpting. I can talk about work and life in a dead end job, for example. I could talk about how the past does not necessarily define who you are, and you are not weak to your past experiences. Just because you went through something does not mean you are this person. You're not bound by that. See, all those subjects, each one of them is worthy of talking about. But picking something and actually focusing on it at the time, at the time is not as easy because it is not, none of them is present in front of me to address. So that was, and perhaps still is, one of the challenges of doing a podcast. And there is also the feeling of talking to yourself. I'm not sure if anyone else deals with this, and I'm not sure if this is I'm not sure how common this is. When you talk on a podcast, especially one like this, where it's a solo thing, I'm not interviewing anyone. It's just me and you, the listener, the viewer. It feels solitary in a way. I'm not sure who's still listening to this, for example. If you're still listening to this, maybe you would have clicked off a minute ago. Now, that feeling is also present, and it isn't pleasant, even though it's present. It feels not nice, and it brings with it the idea that maybe I shouldn't just do this, just stop and go and do something else. It isn't bad, honestly, but it is demotivating. And I am not sure what the remedy is, how to fix this. I still am curious and I'm still wondering. Sometimes I think to just do it with no boundaries, no guidelines, no set of 10 steps that you have to take in order to be successful, not even just be consistent. Well, obviously, just be consistent. It's not easy being consistent in something that does not have a, how do I say this? Not natural. Something that has a working mechanism that moves automatically. It does not come spontaneously. And integrating it into a routine would be the most ideal way of conduct. However, I'm not sure how to do that. And I want to do that. I want to conduct this in an organic, seamless way where I just do this every set of period of time, daily, twice a week, every other day, just that it comes naturally and it happens. The same way you are used to making your coffee in the morning, or the same way you're used to go down a certain path every day, or you have a habit of drawing once a day. You know, you cultivate a habit. Cultivating a habit is not easy. There are difficult habits that you manage to cultivate because of the ease of integration that you have with them. A personal example with me is ease of integrating going to the gym every day. I work out every day. I go to the gym every day. Now, I'm not saying it's because I'm this amazing athlete who's dedicated and motivated and there's music in my head all the time of how I should be perceiving. No, it's not that. Going to the gym just fits into my lifestyle, into my programmed mind, where I know this sounds a bit too much, but bear with me. The way my daily habits have cultivated the integration of going to the gym every day. I've experienced difficulty of doing that when I lived somewhere else. When I traveled and I stayed in in different cities, going to the gym was not easy. Even though my body is like warmed up, my muscles are active, I can go to the gym, but it's such a drag because going to the gym was not integrated into my routine when I was there. However, it is when I'm here. And that's something I'm lucky to have stuck with until it happened. Now, why am I even sharing this with you rather than just having an epiphany on my own and being like, you know what, I'm just going to do it? There's also a barrier that I want to break, which will help add quality to this content. And that barrier is sharing things without putting such a high, very high ceiling of entry to the topics of what I would share on this channel. What do I mean by that? Now, again, I'm speaking from personal dealings and personal experiences. I hope you understand what I'm going through. Maybe you are dealing with things in your own that feel the same way. So, unless it's articulated to the finest way and it has a clear subject and it has a hook and it has a body, and that's like the middle section, where the listener will not doze off and they will continue to listen. If it doesn't have all of those things and then a conclusion that fits and wrap it up really beautifully, then I'm not going to post it. I'm not going to share it. See if that was the case. Sometimes, honestly, maybe it is the case. If that isn't the case, if that is the case, then I'm not going to be posting maybe once a year. I think I haven't posted much this year. Also, I'll add just one more thing. How alternatives, easier alternatives, are so available and they are so enticing. For example, instead of doing a 20 minutes recording, I would go with the easier alternative of doing a quick 2 minutes recording. And it would be just a short talk about a very small subject. If you're finding it hard to deal with the difficulties in your life, then keep in mind that great people would not have been great if they didn't deal with difficult things, and wrap it up into a short video. And I get that sensation that I posted something. I did this, which is not bad on its own. It's good. This is actually something that I speak about from the heart. Obviously, I wouldn't say it like that, but I would be talking about something that is of real value to me, and I think it would add value to you, and I would do a 2 minutes recording. However, on my own, for myself, when I do that, it seems to be the alternative that sedates me from doing this. And I don't want that. Sure, I want to do those. I want to do short recordings. I want to do them for their own sake. But the fact that you do something as a quick fix that prevents you from doing the difficult thing, now that's a problem. On its own, the quick fix, the short form is good. It's not bad. But the way it prevents you from doing real work that takes a lot more effort, then that's not good. That's bad. Anyway, I do miss Mind Universe. I miss my podcast. I'm keeping it live. I'm paying for it, annually. And that's okay. It's fine. Yet, I'm not sure if I even recorded any this year. And I have been feeling pushed away in a way. I'm not sure how that makes sense, but I'll try to make it make sense. I feel like going back on that path has proven to be difficult and empty as well. It feels like nobody listens to it anymore. That's how I feel. I have no proof of that. I do not check statistics or monthly listeners. I don't know. I don't check on them. But that's because I'm not there. I'm not connected to it. And I want to get back to that. And honestly, real talk, real serious talk. Sometimes just one listener, knowing like somebody is listening and this resonates with you, this helps you, man, that's something, and I've experienced that. I've had, for example, I'm not sure if it's Apple Podcasts or iTunes or whatever, where the podcasts have comments on them. Sometimes someone would write a comment and that stays with me, that feels real. Like, hey, somebody listened to this and it helped them. And perhaps same thing with, YouTube and getting a comment like, hey, keep going. I like what you're doing. Like those things really help. But it's not even about helping me. It's the fact that hey, this did resonate with someone. In person, it's a big deal. It still is a big deal with it being online. Anyway, thank you for listening. And I'll talk to you next time. And I'll try to do these more often. Yeah.